family, and welcome to Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative on Motherland Media Network. For those of you who are listening to this particular call and conversation for the first time, we definitely say greetings. Greetings, are you there, Baba Hekima?
I'm here, brother.
All right, you sound loud and you sound clear. So it sounds like we've got a pretty good signal going on. So I just gave the greetings to the family, and so I'll go ahead and set the context for our discussion tonight. And so if you're on the call, whether you're on the call-in side or you're listening in via internet for the very first time, we definitely thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us on our call tonight. This call, the first half, actually this particular program will be a 2-hour program and discussion around the ULU brand of cooperative economics. But the first hour will be a dialogue, a series of questions and answers from myself to Baba Hekima, and we'll also mix in some questions for from our audience. And this particular format is primarily designed for sisters and brothers who are not yet members, but really want to hear more information about Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative, our brand or flavor of cooperative economics, and what it is that ULU is poised to do for them, their families, and their communities. So that'll take place from now until about 10 o'clock, and at 10 we'll take a short break, and the second hour will be a lively discussion around our 10-point appeal and plan, our blueprint for building the new black economy. And that will be moderated by our Vice President, Sister Shanyeri Norman, and our Secretary, Brother Kenbizi Merritt. And they will be discussing point number 4 of our 10-point appeal and plan. And so right now, we're going to go ahead and start our dialogue with myself. This is Brother DJ, along with Baba Hekima, who serves as our elder advisor to our board. He's also one of our founding board members. But just to go ahead and kick the dialogue off, Baba Hekima, again, welcome to the program.
Yes, thank you, and welcome, family.
Definitely. So for our people who are listening in for the very first time, I'll take it from the top. What is Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative?
And we, for short, we call it ULU, Us Lifting Us. ULU is what we call a large-scale, cooperatively owned business enterprise. And it's just that it is a business, and it's already large-scale. And we intend it to be global, and the formation came into existence for the purpose of providing for us a way to gain greater control of the economics of our communities locally, and when we say locally, we mean the U.S., but also with international implications or tied into the economies of our brothers and sisters throughout the world. So we are a cooperative. In other words, we are a collective. We are structured as a cooperative, and I guess I'll stop there. But ULU is a large-scale, cooperatively owned business enterprise that came into existence for the purpose of gaining control of the economics of the black community.
Great. And so how and why did ULU develop? What was the process that really brought ULU, or Us Lifting Us, into existence?
In 2011, we issued a call for brothers and sisters to kind of sit down and think through how we could better answer the clear need of economic empowerment in our community. And so as a result, maybe 20, 25 people answered the call, and less than that really set for a considerable amount of time. And after about a year, with us meeting every week and communicating, some of us in between time, ULU was born. Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative was born. And then in another year, in 2013, June of 2013, the current form, Us Lifting Us Economic Development LLC, as a limited liability company, was ratified, and we've been building ever since. But again, it came out of a general need, and most brothers and sisters around the country know that we need greater economic control of our communities. So it came out of that need, and then out of a think tank.
Great. So moving forward, Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative, for people who are not familiar with cooperatives, what is a cooperative formation or a cooperative company? Familiarize us with that concept, please.
Yes, a co-op is simply one of several business forms. Most of us are familiar with a sole proprietorship. That's just an individual who seeks to be organize himself as a business. And then, of course, you have partnerships, and then you have corporations, and then you and those corporations can be at any size. And then, as a legal entity, there is also a business formation that's called a cooperative. Normally, in most cases, they are non-for-profit or come together for social need or social benefit, and usually they are not for-profit. ULU is a little different. We are structured as a cooperative, but we take a business form that is generally for-profit, and we are for-profit. So we take the limited liability structure or business form, but then we structure it and the procedures or as a nonprofit cooperative would normally take. In other words, the governing document for ULU is our operating agreement, or what in general business terms you would call your bylaws, but it's an operating agreement. So our operating agreement is structured as a democratic process, one member, one vote, and we function day to day as you would expect under the cooperative statutes in any states. However, we found through research that we were better able to accomplish our goals if we took the limited liability company structure, a large partnership structure, but organize it, and the controlling documents were in the same vein as a nonprofit cooperative. So we are straddling the fence in one sense. We're using a form that a lot of us are familiar with. A lot of businesses use the form, an LLC, but we are structured and we function as a collective, all of us being equal and having equal power. So we're just one form of a business form. And as a co-op, co-ops take generally several forms as well. There are co-ops that are considered member co-ops, and we are that. There are other co-ops that are considered worker-owner co-ops, and there's some feature of us that is worker control. But generally, we're a membership cooperative, and we part of what we hopefully will cover later on, we then incubate secondary co-ops that are structured as worker control.
So what does that mean for prospective members? What is the mission of Ulu, and what is it designed to do for people who are currently members and those who are thinking about joining? There's a lot of talk in our community around the need for us to come up with a way to harness this more than $1 trillion that flows to our hands every year. But what is Us Lifting Us designed to do to really help us accomplish that goal?
Yeah, that's really the essence of why we came into existence. So what we have done in giving birth to Ulu, we've created a very large bucket, so to speak, to harness and direct the massive flow of potential power and wealth that flows through our fingers. I guess the best way to describe it is to kind of split it in half. First of all, to clarify, part of our mission is to harness those dollars. In other words, to aggregate or to pool our resources, not only our money, but our skills, our talent, our energy. And so the business form that we talked about a little earlier is for the purpose of allowing us or providing a way for us to pool our resources and keep them in our possession as a collective. And when I say collective, we anticipate that Ulu will grow into the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and eventually into the millions of individuals and institutions. So we have a structure that allows for people around the world to join together in a co-op formation. And then the second part of that is, what do we do with what we aggregate or what we pool? And this is fairly unique in some sense. There are other companies and institutions in the world that are doing exactly what we're talking about. But the resources that we aggregate or pool, we then use those to build and run co-op businesses in local communities throughout the country and eventually throughout the world, at least the African world. And those businesses are owned by all of us. And in addition to those businesses providing needed goods and services, creating jobs, stimulating the local economy, and again, providing employment and a decent salary, they also, once they mature, provide a bonus for the workers, a benefit in terms of charity and endowment for the community, the local community, provide some revenue to go back into the big pot, and also provide a return on investment or profit sharing for Ulu members. So it's a way for us to aggregate or pool resources, Ulu is, and then it's a very specific way for us to use those resources to empower us in communities and throughout the country, and again, as I indicated earlier, with international implications in that Ulu can accept membership from around the world, and members do not have to be U.S. citizens.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what are the basic requirements for membership into Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative?
For individuals of legal age in the state in which the individual resides, usually that's 16 or 18. For institutions, is that you, in fact, are a legal entity. A business can become an Ulu member, an association, and we do have businesses and associations already that are Ulu members. Churches can become Ulu members, and also married couples can become Ulu members. And so that's the basic requirement, and there's a further stipulation. We make it clear that membership in Ulu is reserved for persons of Black African descent, and But other than that, I guess those are the parameters. Legal age, a business that has stature, legal stature, or standing in the community or in the nation where it exists, and you're part of the collective that we are building this process for.
Sounds good. What are some of the tangible benefits that come with membership in Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative? What is ULU designed to do for us as individual members, for our families, as well as our communities?
Yes, and first of all, it provides a way for us to participate actively in a very energetic move to empower us economically, and of course from that economic empowerment or strength, we can then impact other aspects of the life of the community, the life of individuals and families. Now, ULU members, first of all, a member, there is an application that a person fills out and a small fee. And members participate in governing the institution. Members also are workers in ULU businesses and receive compensation for their work. Members who have businesses for themselves, then we find creative ways to support that business and those businesses. And in some cases, it's very formal in terms of contracts and arrangements. Also, as ULU grows and the businesses that we own mature, then for those members who have acquired equity in the company, then they participate in profit sharing or direct return on their investment in ULU. And it's also a way to impact communities, because the businesses and other institutions that we form are not just isolated from the community. They have an impact and will have an impact in the life of the community as well. So all the way from participating in a empowering process to employment, to business relationships and contracts, and turn on investment or profit sharing that can allow a person to create intergenerational wealth that they can pass down to their children and grandchildren, but not only the wealth that one has accumulated in the company, but also the ownership, so that the institutions that generate wealth are also being passed to future generations.
For our family that are business owners or looking to be business owners, how does ULU benefit them, those in our community who are entrepreneurs or black business owners? What are some of the benefits that they can receive from their membership in relationship with Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative?
Well, in all contracts, whether formal or informal, ULU members are first. One of the business models that we champion is the marketplace, the ULU marketplace. This is a large edifice on a scale of 150 to 175,000 square feet, and we will essentially present and organize a marketplace that is a profit center for ULU, but what will be featured are businesses that exist and come into existence in our community. And most of those businesses we suspect will be ULU businesses. There's some of them that may not be ULU businesses. But ULU businesses and business members will have first option to present themselves. And certainly as we develop other avenues or ways to move products, goods, and services, it is the ULU members that we want to feature. And but again, the ULU business that is an ULU member, or the ULU member who owns a business, they are in position to receive a profit sharing from the overall business operations of ULU. So there's a direct return in terms of the business, but there's also an opportunity to partner with ULU in some very exciting ways that helps ULU, but also can be beneficial to that individual business owner.
Great. That sounds wonderful, and I'm sure those brothers and sisters that are on the call or listening in that own the business are definitely interested in that. I do want to take an opportunity to let the folks listening that if they have a question or a comment, whether you're on the call-in side or listening in over the internet, for those of you who have called in, if you have a question for either myself or Brother Hekima, you can press the number 1 on your phone, and it will highlight your phone number, and we'll open up your line to allow you an opportunity to ask a question or give a comment. Again, for those of you who are on the call-in side, you called into the show. If you have a question for either myself or Brother Hekima, go ahead and press the number 1 on your phone. Press the number 1 on your phone, and we'll open up your line for a question or a comment. And for those of you who are listening in via internet, to take part in the conversation, give us a call at 646-716-5682. That's 646-716-5682. And again, if you have a question or a comment, go ahead and press 1 on your phone. Bobby Hekima, you spoke a bit about the market and exchange, the big box edifice. That is the grand vision, so to speak, for Us Lifting Us. But a business model of that magnitude obviously is going to take a considerable amount of money. How does ULU intend to raise the funds that would be necessary to build or erect or retrofit a market and exchange of that magnitude?
We are pooling monies towards that eventuality through members, ULU members, whether they're individuals or whether they're businesses, securing equity in ULU. A membership in ULU is $50 a year, and as a member, there is an opportunity to also acquire equity in the company. An equity unit is $1,000, and people can build up to that or can purchase a unit outright, or 2 units or 10 units or 50 units. And so those unit purchases, members securing equity in the company, is how we are raising the capital to secure those first investments and ongoing as well. In terms of scale, for every 1,000 ULU members who secure at least 1 unit, that's $1 million. And so we anticipate as we grow that any number of our members, the majority of our members, will secure units and supply the capital needed for the marketplace and for other ventures that we will engage in. And remember, every enterprise that ULU engages in is a for-profit enterprise, and we do that because we want to sustain a flow of income. So these businesses, even though they're operated cooperatively, or economic generators to generate income for the workers in the community through charity, but also to reward the members who have secured equity units. And so there is a benefit, a very, very real benefit in people coming together and pooling those dollars because, again, not only are we able to participate in empowering our communities, but we're also able to have a direct benefit for ourselves and our families. I'll just simply say that one of the real desires on the part of most of us in the community is a tangible, practical way of us gaining economic power, and so what we've tried to lay out and what we continue to perfect is a practical way of pooling the money again first, and then of directing those funds such that I often say it's one thing to purchase a bushel of apples. It's another thing to plant an apple tree. And so the businesses that ULU engage in is the exercise of planting an apple tree that provides a yield ongoing. And so it's able to provide a charity and endowment for the community, able to provide employment, able to provide goods and services that the community needs, but also, as it relates to the question you asked about raising the capital, it's able to then reward in a handsome way our members who are also investors, who own units. And remember, in a cooperative structure, unlike the typical corporate structure, there is no hierarchy or a small group or family at the top or individual at the top that takes the lion's share of the profits. And then when, even in a stock-traded company, dividends are divided, it's what's left over after the principal owners have gotten filthy rich. In our scenario, there is no hierarchy at the top. There is no person or family or clique at the top that takes the lion's share of the profits. So when we divide profits and profit share, then it's all of us, each unit, receiving its fair share without the greedy hands that normally take the lion's share of the profit. So it's a good proposition from a business sense as well.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like ULU has total equality. In other words, what you put in, you get out equally amongst all of us as members. So, you know, it sounds like the model is a lot more healthy than the economic system that we currently face, that basically is an exploitive and oppressive type of economic system where those few at the top reap the lion's share of the reward that comes from the labor of the masses, so to speak. And so this sounds like it provides a tremendous amount of equity and cohesiveness for us as collective members. Am I right?
Yes, especially, yes, I just say, I'm reflecting on my situation. I was involved in a small business, probably less than 10 people, in North Carolina, that the owner, there were several months when he made in excess of $200,000, put it in his pocket. And the workers, a decent salary, but in our situation, what we need are structures that have a social, that are wedded to a social imperative of empowerment for our people. So the scenario that I was involved in, there was an opportunity to employ a lot more people, and to benefit the community in more powerful ways. But yes, you're right. And the other thing too is that the worker in most business structures are exploited. So in the ULU model, the workers are managers. In other words, the workers form a management group, select from among themselves a team leader or manager, and in addition to a salary, if the business does well, they also receive a bonus. And on top of that, because they are owners, they also participate in the profit sharing as well. And so it's a much fairer way of organizing the workplace. And in that scenario, people will hopefully feel joyed to come and participate in the kazi or the work with other ULU members, their fellow ULU members in their local communities.
Yeah, it sounds like ULU has really created a win-win situation whereby people can aggregate, us as ULU members can aggregate our resources, number one, in order to build collective power. But regardless of the position that you're in, if you are a worker within ULU, in other words, you go to work every day and you're working within and Us Lifting Us own business, or if you are someone who may be retired and looking to supplement your income through certain ownership units within ULU, it sounds as if ULU has really tapped into the win-win, regardless of where you are and regardless of what your position is within the organization, whether you are a worker, investor, or stakeholder, or a stakeholder by itself. The benefits are not only good, but they're fair. And I think that that's the most important point that you just made. Go ahead, Baba.
And they will be sustainable. In other words, we can anticipate growth and spreading the pie, so to speak. In other words, we anticipate that ULU will have businesses in almost every sector, whether it's retail, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's transportation, communication, hospitality, agriculture. It really doesn't matter. I'm aware that there are co-ops in the world that own railroads and other co-ops that own cemeteries. So there's no business sector that you cannot penetrate utilizing the co-op model. And so you mentioned a little earlier the more than $1 trillion a year that flows through our fingers, and most people have no idea how much potential power that is. If we think through this and continue to build the structure the way it's being built, again, we can have businesses as small as a cleaners, but also have other businesses that are as large as paper mills, tankers on the high seas. Again, the sky is the limit because the money is there. What has not been there is the intent for us to build an economic infrastructure that would allow us, as it grows, to actually build and maintain an economy that's dominated by us. And so yes, it's so many benefits. And of course, I'll just say this and I'll end. But I had a discussion with a brother up in New York recently, and he was adamant about wanting to go into business for himself. And we know that many brothers and sisters want to go into business for themselves and are in business for themselves. But after a lengthy discussion, he really didn't want to be in business for himself. He really wanted a fair income, and he wanted security, and he wanted a workplace where he wasn't being exploited. And in his idea, the only way he could get that was to leave the plantation, so to speak, and to go into business for himself. So ULU environment will provide the security, the income, the workplace sanity, and a rewarding workplace that people need and are longing for.
Beautiful. And again, just hitting back on that point of the win-win. It really sounds like Ulu has really captured the true aspirations of our people to be able to be in a position where their wealth works for them, and their labor works for them in an environment that is fair, that is equitable, and also one that is rooted in our culture. I mean, how much better can it get, in this particular environment? But that's the basis of Ulu. Can you kind of talk to us a little bit about the role of culture in economics? Why is Ulu flavored the way that it is? And that's one of the things that people take notice of immediately when they begin to read through our literature, whether it's printed material or our website, the unique flavor of Ulu in its connection to our.
Yes, and African people in the world have or generally considered to be of the mindset that Mother Earth provides for us in abundance. There are other people in the world who have an opposite point of view, that Mother Earth provides not enough for everybody. And so out of some cultures, there is this competition for resources, and it's to the extreme in many cases. I should say in most cases. And so when we reflect about our experience, our unique experience here in the West, when emancipation ended and we had an opportunity, each one of us had an opportunity to go our own way, and of course some of us did, but overwhelmingly we came together and formed mutual aid societies. We went together in packs and formed new towns, hundreds of them. And we marvel now at the communities of business excellence that were formed by us just one step out of chattel slavery. And so it spoke to our awareness that we fared better as a collective in the world. And so we've never developed an economic system based on this predatory need, desire, thirst, hunger for ravaging everything in the environment. And so we have a 4-page values and ethics document that in the early stages we participated in a seminar in a structured process to develop. And every member in Ulu receives our values and ethics document. And so it's kind of the standards by which we build together, and that's reflective of the workplace, but the business itself. So this dichotomy and this yin and yang between those of us who believe in scarcity and those of us who believe in abundance. Aboriginal people on the planet, African people, generally, and people who are in the tropics for the most part, which supports abundance, have generally favored structures that favored the collective over the individual, the village over the individual.
The whole aspect of Ulu is unique to the minds of our people. But if we really go back in history, we will see formations such as Ulu all throughout our history in this country, in many of the areas that you named. So it sounds like Ulu has really tapped into something that is endemic of our culture. historically, and somehow we've gotten away from it. How is Ulu able to aggregate the kind of wealth that will be necessary to change the harsh realities that we face in our communities day in and day out, Baba Hikima?
By focusing on internal development, by focusing on our needs, as opposed, and we obviously have to fight as we build. So we're not blind to oppression, exploitation, domination, but we feel that a path, and we choose the path of incrementally gaining control of the economics of our community as an imperative. So that's first, the intent. And then by paying special attention to the structure, the process, and the foundations for those that would allow us to utilize whatever resource we have at the time to maximize it through building for-profit co-op businesses that, again, provide a yield and can be administered as a business and generate profits. So the aggregation, again, when we speak about the large sums of money that otherwise flows through our fingers, then what we do is build institutions that trap that money, trap those dollars, trap that energy, and we keep them in the family. And then the yield that comes from them helps to generate other businesses that are traps or that are collectors for the resources that generally flow through our fingers.
And so, again, sisters and brothers, if you have a question for either myself or Baba Hikima, definitely enjoying the dialogue thus far, go ahead and press the number 1 on your phone. Press the number 1 on your phone, and we'll open up your line for a question or comment. And for those of you who are listening in via internet, if you would like to join the conversation, give us a call at 646-716-5682. That's 646-716-5682. Baba Hikima, give us an update on where Ulu is today. We know in March, on March 19th, as a matter of fact, Ulu engaged in its annual meeting, annual members meeting, and cooperative summit here in Atlanta. What are some of the things that came out of that particular event in regards to the members-only meeting? Where is Ulu today?
I guess significantly, we're in a different mode at this point because prior to the meeting, based on our operating agreement, the governing documents, we were only able to look at building the marketplace as our sole business model as of our meeting and the members taking unanimous action and approving a resolution. We're also in the process of deciding on and building smaller projects as demonstrations, and so so in this time frame, everything is kind of shifted to being aware of business opportunities in local communities right now, today, as we build towards the multi-million-dollar projects that the marketplaces are. We're also more active in member participation in some local communities around the country, and also member participation on strategic committees as well.
You there, Baba?
I'm here.
Okay, all right. Had a little bit of a technical issue. Actually, the call dropped, so I didn't hear the last part of your answer. Can you just restate that for me so that I can know where to lead into the next question? Because I've got about 5 more questions before we end our particular discussion of the first half. Go ahead.
Yeah, as of March the 19th of this year, with the unanimous consent of the membership, we are now participating in looking at smaller businesses that we have the capacity to start right now. And they do not have to be in Atlanta, but in all probability, we're still going to start here. And so smaller businesses in local communities. Also, there has been an acceleration in member participation in UBCs, that's ULU-based collectives in local communities, and further participation in ULU participation on strategic committees or teams to help build out the infrastructure to ensure or to better ensure the success based on our plan.
Okay. As a founding board member with usliftingus, Baba Hekima, what has been the most fulfilling thing for you personally about ULU?
The recognition, how should I say it, almost daily, speaking with brothers and sisters around the world, mostly in this country, of course, who say to us that I've been thinking about this for years. You know, why haven't we done this before? And so I'm inspired in that brothers and sisters, when they see this and they take their time to really analyze it, it's becoming apparent to me that our thinking has been affirmed by many other brothers and sisters and thinkers around the world. And so it's a fit. The problem, of course, is that not that many brothers and sisters know about ULU at this point. So there's still the need for exposure. But for those brothers and sisters who are being exposed and who are taking the time and patience to look at ULU, it's an affirmation of the fact that we're on sound ground, we're on solid footing as it relates to building this platform to aggregate and then to empower our communities through this model.
You know, as I think through this process, you know, I know in my mind I can clearly see where ULU is poised to go. I hope that those of you who are listening in, either on the call-in side or over the internet, can understand the magnitude of what Baba Hekima has just stated. In other words, what ULU is poised to do once it begins to really galvanize and resonate with the masses of our people. In essence, what we're proposing is a new day, is a new reality for all of us as people of African descent on the planet. You know, there's nothing more powerful than a solution whose time has come. And for a lot of us, that's what ULU represents, a solution to our present dilemma of what I call economic hemorrhaging, especially in this country, whereby we can systematically aggregate and harness that more than $1 trillion that flows through our hands every year. And so the thing that really sold me, Baba Hikima, on Ulu, or the concept of Ulu, is when we began deliberations of how do we build or construct a process that builds a new economy, one that takes into consideration our unique culture and expression in the world, but also our unique needs based on the things that we have gone through in this country at the behest of under the power of another people. And so, how important is it for us to take control of the economics of our community, and what happens when we don't? Go ahead and give us some strong closing words, Bobby King, before we get to the top of the hour. I'll go ahead at your conclusion, play some music, and when we go back, jump on the other side, we'll be joined by Sister Shaniere Norman, our Vice President, along with our Brother Secretary, Ken Beasy Merritt. Go ahead, Baba.
Well, as I often say, that I'm not aware, and I don't think anyone else is aware, of any people who have risen to respectability and power in the world that did not at the same time control the economics of their community. And economics is not everything. But certainly if your markets, your basic human needs and many of your wants are controlled by economic enterprises that are outside of your community, then ultimately that community is in control of your community. You're subservient to that entity. And from a psychological and spiritual perspective, it's not a good place to be in when everyone knows, the mother knows, the father knows, the grandfather, grandmother knows, the children know, everybody knows that we're taking it on the chin, that someone else is really pulling the string. And so it's not just enough, it's not just that we're economically dominated, oppressed, and exploited, but it's the knowledge, the knowing that is occurring, and that with rare exception, we're not building to counter that, to replace it with anything else. And so I'll just remind brothers and sisters on the line, one of the institutions that we're learning from in Europe, with 5 students and 1 Catholic priest in 1956, using very similar model to what we're talking about, people who had been oppressed and had to take their language underground, and any number of similarities. In 1956, started with just a few $1,000s, 6 students and 1 leader, an adult leader. Today are doing roughly $50 billion a year in gross revenue. And they start from a whole base of only 2 million people. Very slim in terms of resources to get started with. We have the potential to do hundreds of times greater than that. And if we don't do it, then, it's on us. There's nothing standing in our way. So I'll just stop there, Brother DJ, and look forward to the second hour. I think we all know of the imperative. We either control the economics of our community or forever be at the mercy of others.
And I could not have said it any better myself. We'll take